Who was Ella Jo Baker? Yes, I'm asking you. Who was Ella Jo Baker? Do you even know? You probably don't, and that's a sad thing. Well, I'm here to tell you that Ella Jo Baker was somebody that everybody should know about today. She's a wonderful and important figure in the civil rights movement, the freedom movement. Ella Jo Baker is somebody who helped support the civil rights through raising money and working firsthand during the sit-ins and helped create organizations. Ella Jo Baker played an integral role day in and day out during the civil rights. She spoke a lot about helping in the community, doing what you can to support your neighbors and people around you, doing whatever you can to help support the change that needed to happen during her time. And she would have wanted people to continue that on well past her lifetime.
Miss G, an up-and-coming vlogger and history teacher, wants to share with her viewers who Ella Baker was.
Just as much as I do, but I'm going to let her tell you the story. She wants to tell you about how important she was. Not only that, she wants to bring Ella back just so she could talk to you all watching her vlog channel. So please listen to what Ms. G has to say. She's a little funny and a little bit interesting when you listen to her. She's got quite a few ideas about continuing the legacy. And so she's going to make sure that everybody knows about Ella Jo Baker. Let's hear what she has to say on her vlog today.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Miss G and History. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me see, oh, there you go, I see somebody subscribing right now. For those of you visiting me for the first time, I'm a New York history teacher. I mainly focus on what I teach in the city, what my life is like as a teacher. I focus most of my lessons on civil rights. I love history because I teach junior high. I feel like there's a relevant content to inspire educators, especially new teachers. I also love fashion, and every week I post a video on awesome outfits that I really want teachers to try. I absolutely love fashion. There I am right there. I am such a cute, yes. Okay. Now, I also focus my channel on focusing a certain person in history, a very important person in history because, well, of course I am a history teacher, but today's channel is going to be done a little bit differently. I don't know if you know this, but there's a very special person who helped drive the civil rights movement. And I don't believe too many people have heard of her, not like Rosa Parks or Martin Luther King. Her name is Ella Josephine Baker. With social justice and women's equality, Ella Baker made a profound impact in history. Today, you're going to hear from Miss Ella Baker, but of course, it's not the real Ella because she has passed on. But I am wondering what she would say to us if she was here with us today. I want my listeners to get a great understanding from her. I know that there's a great deal amount that we can learn from her in today's times, you know, with the coronavirus and Black Lives Matter, and the protests, and the election coming up. But I'm not going to get too sidetracked with that right now. So before we get to the interview, I did ask a friend to play Ella, just so you know. I'm very excited about that. So before we get to the interview, I interviewed a few people to find out what they know about Ella. And this is what I learned.
Do I know who Ella Baker was? No, I don't know who Ella Baker was.
Do I know who Ella Baker was? No, I don't know who Ella Baker was.
Well, the one thing that I learned was that not too many people have heard of her. I was very upset to know that not too many people, not even my colleagues or friends, have heard of her either. I also want to share a video of Hillary Noble, who is going to be playing his version of Ella's song. Hillary Noble.
Hello all, that was my quick little interpretation of Ella's song on the flute and on the cajon, which I was sitting on. When I first saw the name of this song in a version by Sweet Honey in the Rock, I thought that the song might be about Ella Fitzgerald, the great jazz singer. I didn't realize that the Ella in question was Ella Baker, great civil rights leader, but who didn't get quite all of the attention that perhaps some other leaders like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X received. Because her approach was about being in the shadows and being effective. Later, she became an inspiration for Alicia Garza of Black Lives Matter and many other people. Ella Baker, Ella's song.
Thank you so much, my friend. That was Hillary Noble, everybody, a good friend of mine. So I'm really glad that we have the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights. I'm really glad that it exists. I know that they're a great community resource, and I know that my listeners will really appreciate it. So I want to point out I will also be pointing out this website later in the show as well. I would like to point out a quote that really stood out for me in the song, in Ella's song. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes, until the killing of a black mother's sons, is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. And that which touched me most is that I had a chance to work with people, passing it on to others that was passed on to me. Powerful words, Ella. Without further ado, please joining us today, please welcome Ella Baker. Welcome, Ella. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I can't believe this is 2020. So many years ago, I used to think, what would the 2000s be like? I was always thinking and planning ahead in some ways. As I recall, though, the 1950s and 1960s were filled with planning and organizing. I remember being asked to speak in the 1970s. Well, I can't really remember exactly all the details behind that because it's been so long, but I do hope I can share some things about my life and journey with you all today.
Oh, wow, that's amazing, Ella. Those are some amazing times you spent striving to organize and help with the civil rights movement. The words to Ella's song, actually written by Dr. Bernice Johnson Reagan, makes me think of how effective those words are. They are still very relevant today.
Yes, they are very beautifully written. I meant everything I said. I still believe them. And yet, look at this year alone. My goodness, you all are still fighting for freedom and equality. The shadows of Jim Crow still on our necks. You know, it saddens me to think that in today's times, we are still fighting for Blacks to have freedom, particularly in America. Freedom from racist responses, racism, period, the discrimination, period. Black and brown people everywhere still need to come together if any change is ever going to truly happen. Not only that, non-blacks need to do more listening and break down these hatred cycles. You know, for me, organizing was something that was something to appreciate. I saw how my own church experience was, and I felt I should be more hands-on and implement more in connectedness with people. I didn't feel the need to be so noticeable like my other constituents. You know, the kind of leader I wanted to be was the kind of leader I became. And, you know, I really tried to stay away from charismatic leadership. It just didn't appeal to me.
Well, you stood for so much, Ella. You rose above the challenges. You are a hero, Ella. You helped in vital ways sustain the civil rights movement with your business mindset and your financial wisdom, to say the least.
Ah, yes, I, at the time of the movement, said to myself, we are not going to get the money to take this movement to the next level unless we do something about it and raise the money for ourselves. You know, by the 1950s, people, maybe the 1960, no, the 56, excuse me, I was compelled to develop an organization that would help us bridge gaps in our progress. I'm talking about when we had to raise money to help support local causes and we brought our partnerships with others on a global level. But I focused on funding and generating participation from others. I'll tell you, the one thing I didn't like was seeing sexism happening around me during the civil rights. That I did not like. But yes, I really tried to give it my all.
That's right. You helped raise money for the civil rights movement. It was mostly in the South. Is that correct?
Absolutely, in Georgia. It was in the South where much had happened.
I also read that you work closely with students and youth. What were some of your challenges?
It was challenging not seeing the students have someone care for them. That was the real challenge. The students were integral to the change that followed the sit-ins. You know, those students put their lives on the line, and I had to see to it that they had someone care for them. I saw the need and I just made that my priority. Yes, I thought a great deal about the children and the youth tremendously. I couldn't stand by and not help them. One thing I knew back then, everybody had a voice, young or old, even when I was a college student. Myself, I remembered I couldn't stand there and let the administrators hold us down, as I was motivated by my own family. I guess I wanted to nurture those students. I liked making sure they had what they needed. I was very proud of the work it took to move the movement forward. Every one of those students were full of life and wanted to stand for something important.
You were the executive director of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. When did that start?
Yes, 1960. And some also say I was the executive director of Martin Luther King.
Yes, which you were. You certainly were. Cornell West shared and wanted you that you were the kind of leader that led by example. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I thought often about my grandmother's own journey, totally mistreated in her lifetime. You know, she was whipped because she stood up for her right not to marry a man her slave owner tried to force her to marry. I think I carried some of that resistance to accept injustice from my grandmother. She was such a strong individual. It was in essence my grandmother who taught me resilience and injustice, and I couldn't help but to continue in some way to fight for my own life, but especially for others. I was an educated lady, yes. You could say I was privileged. I used my privilege to inspire, though, and to help others.
Can you tell us a little bit about growing up as a child? What was your life like for you and your family?
All right, I told you a little bit about my grandmother. I can share some about my own life. Born December 13, 1903. So I guess I was born before the Spanish fever. I was very young at that time, way young to remember, but what I do remember, it was a strange time. I see you all are experiencing a pandemic right now yourselves. Why we didn't have the internet helping us stay connected or having online school. It was just family and a few friends in our community I'd see.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You had it harder than we did. That's for sure.
I was born in Norfolk, Virginia. I admired my family a great deal. We had a very stable life, and I liked what my relatives taught me. By the time I went to college, I was already thinking about becoming a leader and being an example to help pave the way for others. I attended Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina around 1924 and graduated, I think, around 1927. My goodness, such a long time ago indeed. In regards to fundraising for the movement, I also co founded In Friendship. That's the name of the organization because it was in response to the Jim Crow laws in the South. You know, we had to fight for people's rights, and I saw no other way but to fight against the ridiculous laws. Every time I think about them, I still feel that same motivation to fight against injustice. And that's what you kids need to do today. Stand for something. I kept telling myself to stand for what was right: dignity, freedom, self respect, human rights, women's rights.
You really made a difference.
You know, I do recall I held a fundraiser for In Friendship, the organization I mentioned. My goodness, we raised a good sum of money for that event. It was the most lively and amazing experience. It was in response to the boycotts. I think we were celebrating our 1 year anniversary since the boycotts that year. You know, Duke Ellington and Harry Belafonte was there. Gorgeous people in talent and in character. I love that moment. I truly love to organize. That's what I was proud to do.
Thinking about you as a student, what kind of student do you think you were? Did you say you were?
I was a very good student. I studied a great deal. I worked hard as my family expected me to work hard for what I accomplished. Yes. Um, I graduated class valedictorian. I was always good with my studies.
Wow, you hear that, students? Ella Baker is a great example of working hard. You work hard and you go far. Thank you so much, Ella.
My pleasure. I loved school. I knew with education you can do a great deal more. Thank you.
You were married for some time, right?
Yes, I was married for some time. It didn't last as long as I had hoped.
Well, it's true. Marriage is hard, people. Let me just tell you, it takes a lot of work. Given the fact that your life was very busy and you had a very hectic schedule, you were highly dedicated and committed to the cause. How did you keep moving forward? What do you think helped you pull through that time in your life?
I see. You know, I never gave up. I was completely empowered. I had my family.
Let's talk about Moving the Mountain by Ellen Cantarow.
It was written before my passing in 1983. I do know though, it's a book about organizing social change, I believe. I'm one of a few women Miss Cantarow discusses in the book. She did a great job with it.
Many authors really appreciate you. Why do you suppose you were not mentioned in history books?
I don't really know, but I guess they didn't mention me because the things I did weren't seen as powerful and vocal. Some people see that the things I did are very valuable today. Remember, we were in the Deep South, in the South in general. We didn't have it like it is today. There are people who see the value in what I did and stood for right now.
Thank you so much, Ella, for joining us today. I mentioned earlier that the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights is a wonderful resource. They really do a great job of valuing her work and really represent her remarkably well. I like to play a video the Center for Human Rights produced called 15 Years of People Power Chains.
Friends, brothers, and sisters in the struggle for human dignity and freedom, I am here to represent the struggle that has gone on for 300 or more years, a struggle to be recognized as citizens in a country in which we were born. I had to learn that hitting back with my fist one individual was not enough. It takes organization. It takes dedication. It takes the willingness to stand by and do what has to be done when it has to be done. A nice gathering like today is not enough. You have to go back and reach out to your neighbors who don't speak to you. And you have to reach out to your friends and get them to understand that they, as well as you and I, cannot be free until we can get people to recognize that they themselves have to make the struggle and have to make the fight for freedom every day, in the year, every year, until they win it. Thank you.
I'm so grateful that we have them as a resource. Again, I would like to thank them for collaborating with me with this project and bringing back Ella through my channel. So that's all the time we have for right now, but please don't forget to post comments or questions or any topics that you want to see for the future. Thank you so much for watching and have a great night.